From panic to finding lasting peace. Bonnie Brindle on conquering anxiety. Feeling overwhelmed by anxiety and stress? Join us for an intimate conversation with Bonnie Brindle, author of Cracking the Crazymakers Code, as she shares her inspiring story of overcoming panic attacks and finding lasting peace. Discover her powerful 9 step framework to rewire your thinking, heal from past traumas, and build a life of gratitude, resilience, and joy. Don't miss this opportunity to learn practical tools and strategies for conquering anxiety and reclaiming your power. Welcome to the Wellness Driven Life Show, where you're about to go on a wellness driven ride. Let me share a little bit about the incredible guests that we have with us today. Bonnie Brindle is the Anxiety Avenger. She is a psychotherapist, author, national speaker, and transformational coach. Incorporating wildlife imagery with evidence-based energy practices, she's created a path for anyone struggling with anxiety, like she used to find personal peace. Bonnie's mission is to support others who soar above the chaos, to identify and crack the Crazymakers Code, the key to living your best life. I am so pleased to help welcome to our stage today, Miss Bonnie Brindle. Welcome.
Oh, thank you, April. What a lovely intro, and I'm so happy to be back with you. This is just a gas. Thanks for inviting me back.
It's an absolute pleasure. And yes, you're correct. It's the second time. And there's a reason that you're back, because I love your insight and your knowledge and wisdom around, well, animal insight and that energy and all of the things that we forget to tune into, all of the magic all around us. So thank you so much for honoring us again here on the Wellness Driven Life Show. But for those of you who haven't tuned into the last one, do you mind sharing a little bit of background so the audience can get to know you more?
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for asking. So first, you should know about me that I'm completely and utterly obsessed with horses. I have been since I was a little girl, and their magic and their beauty just remind me all the time to connect to nature all around me. And that has helped me to get through what was a debilitating panic disorder and agoraphobia that I was caught in as a teenager and a younger adult. I was actually at a point during that time where I couldn't leave my house. I dropped out of college after my first semester because I couldn't go to class. Some really heavy stuff happened in those days. And as I discovered what the roots of my anxiety were, and I call them crazy makers, and I discovered the path out and found the help that I needed to get better, I was able to completely reclaim my life and now live as comfortably as anybody else, being able to come and go as I please and travel again and do things that I could not do for several years in my life.
Several years, and that's no way to live. No one wants to be debilitated from living, right? From being able to perform just a simple act of going outside of their home, being able to see others, being able to communicate clearly with others. And we do sometimes get there in life, don't we? When we have some sort of major trauma that has occurred, sometimes with or without us knowing. And so, do you want to share a little bit about what you felt maybe the trauma was that you experienced that brought you there in the first place?
Oh, for sure. I kind of condensed that into a definition of what a crazy maker is. And if you will humor me, I'll read you just a paragraph from the book that I wrote called Cracking the Crazymakers Code, which is a memoir of how I figured this out. and the path I created, and includes a path for any of your audience who might want to work through that to start their own release of their anxiety. But so it's important to know what a crazy maker is. So let me hop over there for you. So this comes from the beginning of my short, accessible book called, the page is called How to Use This Book. And I wrote, there are two ways of interacting with these pages. One is to read through the chapters as a memoir, because it's the story of my discovery that crazy makers are behind our anxiety, depression, and relationship stress. Crazy makers can include the people who raised us or with whom we're connected in some way, maybe people that we work with, neighbors, folks that we're having difficult relationships with. There are also unhealthy belief systems that are passed down through generations. I call this generational miserable inheritance. Sometimes the training that we receive from the people before us can be crazy making and traumatic. And also traumatic events that either we've experienced or witnessed others experiencing can code that kind of anxiety as well. They're the source of coding that gets into our DNA and programs us to think, believe, and act in ways that sabotage us. So that comes from here, the Crazymakers Code, 9 simple steps to ease your anxiety, that I created to help other people start the path that I took to release my anxiety and regain my life.
Well, and isn't that the truth? All of those that you mentioned. And there's so much science now to back those things too, right? It's our environment, societal standards, and going deep into DNA and historical factors of what we're made of. And so I love that you bring all of that to the forefront, because I think that it is very important for us to start with awareness and understanding, and it paints such a light and a picture in order for us to move forward. When we have an understanding of all of that, it's really this piece of ourself where it's know thyself, isn't it, Bonnie?
That's exactly it. And how can we know thyself when we're busy running around, working, trying to create an income, raise our kids, do all the right things? And a lot of these mind gremlins are following us around, telling us you're not good enough, you don't deserve that, who do you think you are? All that critical stuff that's come down on top of us. To have no idea what to do with it, it spins around in our heads all the time. And then it unfortunately can spew out in relationships where other people have it land on them, and then we have relationship difficulties. So when we can figure out what it is and what to do about it, what an enormous change that could be for everybody.
So true. So now that we have a better understanding of where this really is stemming from, more of that deeper rooted cause, what is something that we can do about that? Because you're right, there's the chaos, the constantly moving environment of which we are placed. And it's not anyone's fault. It just is. This is our world. This is our life. And so now we need tools in order to navigate through that in a successful way and be able to feel whole internally.
Exactly. Tools. So people might not recognize that communication is a number one tool. And when we think of, well, I'm not going to tell any other people how I feel. I get that. I didn't do that either for years.
Yes.
What I started communicating with were the animals around me. I got myself back into nature more, which that's our origin. That's where all of us human beings come from. And the more we move away from that, and we surround ourselves with all the technological silliness that we're into every day, and driving our cars and sitting in offices and all those things that are really unnatural, actually, for us as human beings, if we don't rebuild that connection to our natural world and our original selves, the cutting off from that can make people really anxious and not be able to put a finger on what it is that's making us feel so uncomfortable. So one of the things I do every day, first thing I do when I get up, and before I get up, I take a moment of gratitude. Something, even one thing that I can just take a moment and be thankful for. It can be as simple as I have leftovers from last night's dinner, so I don't have to cook tonight, or as profound as my spouse is a really supportive, wonderful person, and I'm really glad that I'm waking up next to him or her again today. It could be any
Mm.
level. But after that, I get up and move. I go out the door and move my body, take a walk, bring a water bottle because you need to hydrate, and start my day that way. And if being outside isn't for everybody, you can move in your house, turn on the radio and dance around the kitchen for a few minutes. Go out in the backyard and do some jumping jacks, give the neighbors something to talk about. Do anything to move yourself, because the energy that gets blocked in us psychically and physically is what anxiety stems from. All it
Yeah,
is,
Bonnie.
blocked energy. That's all. It's just blocked energy.
It is. And I've talked to a couple different guests about this, and maybe even you. But a great example is if we picture like a bunny rabbit in the wild, they do this little shake thing, right? It's like they're shaking off that energy, and that's something that we don't just do, right? And so that movement piece is essential. Movement creates emotion, or motion creates emotion. There we go. And so you're right. That's vitally important that we continue moving. I mean, these bodies are designed to do that. But I love so much that you bring it back to nature, Bonnie, and hence this beautiful background that you have here on the screen today. But nature is where, I mean, our bodies are built here to and designed to correlate with that, to co-create with that. And we forget so easily because we've built these big walls behind us, around us, and these cement walkways. We don't connect with earth the way that we were for so long. And there's a lot of different people talking about this now, about how we need to reconnect to that piece of ourselves, and how it makes everything feel so much better. I'm curious to know, what was it like for you, the moment that you really had this aha moment, or this really knowing within yourself that this was a key element?
The recognition that nature was a key element kind of snuck up on me, because
Yes.
I was always an outdoor kind of kid. I always wanted to be outdoors, and I lived not far from the ocean, so I could walk to a beach in the morning. And
Mm.
when I got connected directly with horses that I had been obsessed with since I was 3, when I was 10, I actually got to connect with horses, and that completely changed my life. And that kept me out in nature, right? Horses don't live in houses. Um, but to really recognize it, I think, was when I started writing my book, and I was thinking about Charlotte's Web, one of my very favorite books, and certainly one of the most favorite books of many, many people. Childhood dream books about Fern being in the barn with all her animals, and they could all talk to each other. And Wilbur the pig, who's slated to be Christmas dinner, is
Mm.
starting to panic, and the old goose is telling him, "You're gonna be dinner," and he's starting to panic. And Charlotte, the calm, sweet spider up in the corner, figures out a way to save Wilbur, and it is in writing. She wrote in her web things like fabulous and some pig. And of course, the humans thought it was a miracle, and I couldn't kill the fancy pig. So Wilbur was saved, and all of that story. But I think recognizing, like, one day I just like, wow, Charlotte was my first, what we sometimes call imaginary friend. When I was a kid, I thought about her when I was in those places where I felt unsafe and
Mm.
unloved. And I would go in my mind with Charlotte. And I knew that since she saved Wilbur, she could be there for me. So that was really kind of where it started from, I think.
Oh, well, I love that you share that, because when we go back to how we felt as children, and you're talking about a lifelong love of horses. And Bonnie, I'm curious, would you agree that nature has a way of calling us in? They're giving us subtle signals all the time to come back to them, to come back and connect with that of which we're a part of. And, I think a good example of that is when I called you not that long ago. I had very vulnerably, I had an instance where there was a dragonfly that flew into my net of our trampoline, and our trampoline net around it has pretty big holes. So this was a very large dragonfly, and so its head got stuck in there, and I went and I tried to save it, and it ended up dying in the process of me trying to save it. And I ended up becoming so incredibly emotional. I was bawling over this dragonfly and I couldn't figure it out. And I'm like, why do I feel so deeply over something maybe so small, something that somebody may call, just non-important. And I recall there was also an instance when I was a deputy sheriff, and I had to put down my first elk. And that was so difficult for me. And I held it in all day after doing that to put it out of its misery. And, I was being watched by my peers and in training and all of the things. And I held it all together all day. And then I went home and I bawled again. So these sort of things where we're really connected with nature, they do tend to come up in our lives. And something I appreciate about you, Bonnie, is, well, when I had that instance with the dragonfly, I called you, you answered, and you're like, look, April, this is what I feel for you. And you know so much about the meanings behind animal energy. And so if you don't mind sharing a little bit about some of the animal energies that you find very inspiring.
Oh, sure. Well, and dragonfly is an example of transformative energy for us. So often when we see a dragonfly or dragonfly shows up, even in the way that this one passed in front of you, it's inviting you to recognize where you are transforming in your life, or there's something that needs to be transformed that you haven't accessed yet. And when I think of the animal and nature and human connection, I just, when you described the elk story, the visual was so powerful for me of you back at this police station, stuffing it. How incredibly different and loving it would be if everybody who was in the station could take a moment with you, sit in a circle for a moment, and recognize your pain and thank the grace of that elk and the power of that elk that was present for you at that time. You would have been able to let go of that pain you were holding, right? But instead, we train ourselves to stuff it. And that's exactly what I'm talking about, how anxiety is just energy. It's stuck energy that we haven't properly released, and it's wanting to pop out all over the place. And we're trying so hard to hold on to it. And horses are such power and grace that when I am needing those things, I really call on not only the real horses in my life, but the horses that are in my wildlife imagery, and ask them to help me bring up my own power when I need it, or to be graceful when I'm in a situation and I'm maybe not responding in the best way that I could be. But one thing that anyone can access is the trees. We take them for granted. There's trees. They're everywhere. They're just kind of there, grounded every day. Trees provide us with shade and oxygen and homes for small animals and birds and insects. They prevent erosion. I mean, the jobs that they're doing out there every day for us are profound. And so just going near a tree, sometimes I'll put a hand on the trunk, and if something's on my mind, I will just talk to that tree like a friend, or just do it in my mind while I'm taking a walk in the morning, and I get out of my sidewalk head and look up and go, oh yeah, all the trees are still here. They're all around me. Can you guys let me tell you what's going on? Can I just say this out loud? It's so relieving.
It is.
Realize how available that is. The animals and the trees will listen to you if you'll only tell them what's happening.
That's so important that you bring that up, Bonnie, because oftentimes, like you've mentioned early on, when we don't feel like we know how to communicate with others. Are you ready to take control of your ride to wellness? Rev up with Driven Living. Visit www.drivenliving.com and buckle up for a journey. Get exclusive access to our Wellness Driven Life Show guest portal, where you can dive deep into the minds of our esteemed guests. Sign up for our newsletter and get insider scoops on these distinguished personalities. It's like having a backstage pass to their life-changing wisdom. But that's not all. You'll also receive a free hug. You heard me right, a free hug. An enlightening ebook from the Driven Living team. Discover the science-backed benefits of hugging yourself. It's a fill-up for your wellness tank. Because at Driven Living, we believe in fueling your journey to wellness, both physically and psychologically. So what are you waiting for? Visit www.drivenliving.com today. Welcome back, everyone, here with the incredible Bonnie Brindle. And we're talking about animals and their energies and the therapy around that, and being able to have great conversations with nature and everything that's around us. Because we're energetic beings and we emit frequencies, everything around us does as well. And so why not have a conversation, especially when you're at those pinpoint moments of life where there's been some sort of transition, or you have had some sort of trauma response where you're just unable to have a good communication with those around you. So I love that we have this discussion, Bonnie. You share with us some very good insights of tools that we can utilize with something that we have access to always. And so can you share a little bit more with us about how to have some more access with those around us in order to, find lasting peace from anxiety and panic attacks?
Sure. So as I was saying, just getting out and talking to the trees is a number one. You're moving, bring your water bottle, and you have someone to talk to who is going to listen unconditionally and who's going to be there tomorrow and the next day and the next day. There's something very grounding about trees. I just like to spend a lot of time around them. And I do talk out loud to them, tell them what's going on with me. Letting yourself verbally express some of that stuff that you may not be comfortable talking to people about yet is a great first step. And in my book, it's the first step on the path with the journal that I created. At the end of each chapter, and they're short, at the end of each chapter, there are reflection questions, a mantra, and action steps with a printable journal that you can start really kind of looking at, pushing yourself out of those stuck places. It's literally the path that I started taking for myself that I've written into the book at the end of each chapter. And of course, at the lowest point of my life, when I was really struggling to continue, I had to think about whether I was going to continue or get help that I needed. And I did access a therapist at that point. And these days, that was a wonderful experience in person, and I would recommend it again as long as you find somebody that you're comfortable with. These days you can get apps also, and there are phone like the 988 national phone number for someone to pick up the phone and just allow you to talk about what's going on with you and maybe help with strategies and ways to settle yourself. There are lots of options for just being able to put it out there a bit. But in my book, in the beginning of inside the cover, they have these little QR code, little horse in the middle, of course, that you can print this journal. And it has the mantras and the action steps from the ends of each chapter. I'll just open the first one to show you what I mean. Okay, so here's from chapter 1. It's called Origins. The mantra that I included on that one is the following. And for me, the family was a big issue of my anxiety. So this mantra is, even if my family didn't always support me, I accept myself and I'm worthy of love. And the action steps are: take time to sift through your memories and be as honest as possible with yourself. What did you accept in the past that's now acceptable? Or maybe think about the present. It's not acceptable. Making yourself a list of family beliefs, activities, or behaviors that once seem acceptable but now do not. Write a few lines about each example and describe your reactions to them, focusing on how you felt then and how you feel now. So taking the time in private, even with the journal, to start activating the understanding what activated your anxiety to begin with is the first really great step. And then getting out there in nature, talk to squirrels, talk to rabbits. And you mentioned rabbits with the shake off.
Yeah.
So many folks have dogs. Same dogs do the same thing. They go racing to the door. They bark at the letter carrier. Rah, 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 rah. Their energy is all crazy, but it's never blocked. They don't pull it back in. They shake all over the place, right? They let it go. If we could do that like animals, flies land on a horse's back. The whole body starts. Or you'll see even a lot of animals will lick and chew. Horses will, dogs will, even cats will. Cats will yawn really, a big old yawn, or they'll take off and they'll just let their energy go. We have to learn from animals about how to keep the energy we need for survival and let go of the energy that comes to us from the outside that's negative and isn't helpful. They just let it go.
They do. My gosh, boy, Bonnie, I really want to get vulnerable on this show with you today and talk a lot. I'm not sure why. But if you'd allow me to share a little bit about those things as well. And, when we talk about energy and animals, my cat, when I'm in deep meditation and my own body is having the energy move through me, and a lot of people that know very much about meditation, they understand that the body has a tendency to shake because it's moving the energy through different energy sources, right? And so my cat will do the same thing. She loves to sit on my lap during meditation. And as the energy moves through me, it will also move through her. It's like a transfer of energy. It's fascinating. And, sometimes we don't really understand that until we experience, but it's very, very real, that which we cannot see. Again, all of those frequencies of emotion that we're emitting on a continuous basis. And doing that, like you mentioned with your workbook, really having an understanding of where you have your belief systems in place and why, and going back into that mind to understand why are your thoughts and beliefs happening and how do we change it from there. Family is such a huge, huge thing for so many people. We believe that family is thicker than blood, this and that. You could talk about all of the things that we have this strong belief of what family is. And at the same time, it can be one of our biggest pain points. And so understanding of when, how to let go of that if need be, being sure that we have the people in our lives surrounding us that are really supporting us and where we want to be, that inspire us.
It's the truth. And none of us want to reject our families, right? Or blame our families for everything. Oh, it's just your little kid stuff. But all of our family members go through their own crazy making traumas and anxieties.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
when those get built, right? When those get built up, they get passed on. Doesn't mean anybody wants to do that, but that's what happens. And if somewhere along that line, one of us has to say, no, thanks, I am not taking that on, and release the stuff that we are stuck with. Otherwise, we just pass it on. We pass it on at work, pass it on to our spouses, pass it on to our kids. It's possible to stop that. And that's what my whole mission is. It's possible to stop that because anxiety is just stuck energy. That's it. That's all it is. No matter how debilitating, like mine was, it was stuck energy because it was built and built and built. And I never told anybody what was going on. And when the panic attack started, I couldn't hide it. People were watching me like freak out and take off out of the grocery store with a cart full of groceries because I couldn't stand between two different people. Right? It's so hard to describe to anybody who's not particularly anxious. They can't really help us all that much.
I think at some point people will get to that, because we just don't get through this life without challenges, without ups and downs. All of us have these points in life where what we would call an identity crisis, because we identify so much with being something, and when that is disrupted, then our world is disrupted, right? So I really like that you mentioned that it can be undone. Just as the body is designed to heal itself, we can get out of all of these. And it does take time and it does take work. But something about animals is just a beautiful thing. You and your horses, we just have our new mascot, Shira, our dog. And something incredible about that dog is that she too helps bring me back to life by running and enjoying life and playing and getting you back outdoors. You mentioned that about the horses. They don't live inside, they are outdoors. And so it forces you to reconnect.
Yes, it does. And there's nothing more fun than witnessing the joy of a dog when you're
Oh,
playing with your dog. I mean, they just have this
mhm,
big grin on their face. You can't be pouty and grumpy when you're playing
right.
with your dog. And as you mentioned, your cat wants to lay on your lap when you're meditating. You
Mhm.
are at your clearest vibrational plane in your meditation. You are as close to source as you can be in your meditation. So, yes, your cat is all over that, because that is your best energy that you're emitting at that point. And your cat
Mm,
wants to pick up on it, right? So,
yeah.
it's no surprise that your cat wants to sit on your lap when you're meditating. And getting back to the family piece, if we have time, I'd love to read just a paragraph.
Would love that.
So letting go of the guilt when you need to let go of family. Hang on. So we're in chapter 7 of my book called Cleaning House. In this little section here. Often people make excuses for family members who treat them poorly, or they try to ignore being put down, shut up, or used for emotional target practice. When it comes to family relationships, guilt shows up and makes you question your right to preserve your own safety and dignity. Of course, it's always best when you can discuss and move forward from differences that arise with your family members. Occasionally, though, a familial relationship can become so toxic and irreparable that you need to remove yourself from it to maintain your own sanity. It's particularly crazy making when relationship difficulties are generational, when they're hatched in broken connections and issues among the people who came before you and become a miserable inheritance. We don't need
Mm,
to hold on to those. We can let go with grace when we need to.
that's so beautiful. Thank you, Bonnie, for sharing. I am excited to get a copy of that book. I don't yet have one. Now, is it fully released, or is this something that everyone can get access to now?
Absolutely. You can find Cracking the Crazymakers Code.
What? No, let me put you in solo. What is the photo of that? Okay, that's a raccoon.
The raccoon with a magnifying glass, looking carefully at the situation. Raccoon, smart, crafty, incredible problem solvers, and a friendly cover for a book on a subject that's hard. I didn't want to have a cover that
Mm,
was scary. I wanted one that was approachable. And yeah, the raccoons are incredible problem solvers. So that's what came to me when I asked Spirit in meditation what the cover of my book should look like, and that's what I got. And a
they're
little
great at
humor.
getting in. They're great at getting into those trash cans, aren't they?
Yes. And so
Really good at that.
when you need to go digging for the roots of your anxiety and figure out what the heck, you want that trash can problem solver right there.
Absolutely. Oh,
But
that's beautiful. That's
yes,
brilliant.
the book's available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and Goodreads. The ebook is out if you're an Amazon Kindle person, and on Kindle Unlimited. And next week or the following, I'm recording it myself. I'm recording the book to put it on Audible, but it is fully
Awesome.
available today. $14.95 on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or Goodreads.
Oh, that's a heck of a price.
To
Well
get you
worth it.
started, get you
Yes.
started on getting out of that anxiety. It's a value.
Oh, and I have always loved Audible. You know, some of the deepest learning points of my life when I was working or what have you, I just dived deep into Audible book after Audible book after Audible book. And so powerful. I'm so glad to hear that that is going out there as well. Bonnie, you've been such a joy to have on the Wellness Driven Life Show. I want to make sure that everyone knows where to find you. So we've had it displayed on the screen for those of you watching, and for those of you listening in, www.bonniebrindle.com. Easy peasy. It's in the description below, along with a very special surprise for those of you who would like to know more, who would like an intimate piece of time and moment with Bonnie herself. And she's offering 30 days for free, a part of her community, excuse me. And so take advantage of that. She's brilliant. I wouldn't have had her on the show for the second time if I didn't really love and enjoy all of the things and all the wisdom that she has to share.
Thank you so much, April. I really appreciate that. And yes, my website is simple, just my name, bonniebrindle.com. And if anybody's interested in looking into that, twice a month, Anxiety Avenger Alliance meeting that we have live, and that you can also listen to a recording, and you can send questions by email that we can discuss. That's free for 30 days. All you have to do is go to my website, bonniebrindle.com, and get on my contact page and send me a note that you're interested, or sign right up on the Alliance page that is on the website. And if you choose to buy the book, this is so funny. If you choose to buy the book and you'd like it personalized, I can mail to you a personalized sticker plate to put on the title page of your book, addressed as however you want it to be. All you have to do is, again, go onto the contact page of the website and send me a mailing address, and I'll personalize your book for you.
Oh, Bonnie, thank you so, so much. I think that that is beautiful that you do that and personalize that for people who really could use this information during certain times of their life. Those are the people that are going to be drawn to you into this interview. You have been such a light. Is there anything else you want to share on the Wellness Driven Life Show today?
Well, thanks again for inviting me. My mission is definitely to help other people dealing with anxiety to release it. And I think it's really important for people to recognize when they get completely overwhelmed with anxiety and feel stuck and feel like they can't talk to anybody. The trees are out there, the animals are out there for you to talk to first, and get used to that. And recognizing anxiety is not an entity unto itself that's taken over your world. It is simply blocked energy that can be properly expressed, and you can let go of the roots of it, the crazy makers behind anxiety that keep you separated from others or feeling uncomfortable or make your days really difficult. It's just blocked energy, and it can be unblocked.
Oh, such brilliant words. Thank you again, Bonnie, for being our guest on the show.
Thank you for inviting me. I loved it.
You're welcome. And thank you so much to our audience. Without you, this show wouldn't be possible. So thank you so much for now. Goodbye, and we will see you next time.